Happy holidays from Bloodbath and Beyond. Today we review The Elf, All Is Not Calm.
Written and directed by Justin Price, starring Natassia Halabi and Gabriel Miller, The Elf is about a killer elf doll who is trying to kill everybody on the naughty list. Unfortunately, we did not like this movie, and so we are going straight to what didn't we like about this movie, guys?
I'm kicking this off with the story. Man, this was a boring and pointless story.
But the whole thing was odd. I'm not even sure I saw whatever it was.
Because the story didn't make sense to begin with, the actors, who are bad actors, trying to read like a bad script is just atrocious, honestly. And I feel like shit saying that, but it's as if everybody involved, it was their first time doing anything related to film.
I don't think anybody involved understands filmmaking, story. Nothing was believable. Nothing was coherent. I pieced together a bit of it. So Nick, who's our main star, he inherited a toy shop. His grandfather was a toy maker who had to kill people who were on the naughty list to prevent the curse from moving on. But Nick, he happened to get engaged to a woman who is also cursed. So it was just coincidences that didn't make sense, didn't move the story forward.
Every interaction with one person, especially the main couple, our main leads talking to each other, felt like they weren't even in the same room. It's like people are talking at each other, not with each other, and it just makes them all look really, really bad.
Each customer in this book represents a ledger, like a checklist of each toy made. Empty.
There wasn't one character you were rooting for or enjoyed seeing on screen.
Wait, I thought you said you were at a toy shop, which is kind of pedophile-ish, but I didn't want to judge.
You know, when you see a bad movie with a bad story, you can understand like what they were going for, or like slight improvements that maybe if it was better executed, it could have been like a decent film.
Yeah, and that's what we generally try and do.
Yeah, right? Like you can understand for lack of like time or, you know, ability or skill, like your story might lack because you can't find the right location. You can't, you know, film it how you envisioned it. But I can't even begin to like comprehend the ideas behind this story or like how to improve it in any way. Like, I think it was just a bad idea that got produced into a bad product.
On top of that, they were so inconsistent with the elf. You go from this really bad CGI elf just like walking around to a guy controlling a puppet. Either go all CG or all puppet.
The way that John's saying it sounds like we even see this elf more than 3 times in the film, which isn't the case. Yes, we see a puppet sitting there, sometimes on a shelf, which I'm sure that this is definitely playing towards the elf on the shelf idea. However, it's too little too late, and you don't really see the elf do anything for most of the movie. An hour in, we were like, has this been 2.5 hours? Because this seems like it's going on forever and ever. It probably comes down to a lot of the editing choices, because the editing was awful as well. Not only inconsistencies in how people are wearing their clothes, or whether or not people have empty glasses of champagne or full glasses of champagne, to the non-existent snowstorm that exists where a guy is shoveling absolutely nothing on the sidewalk.
They did mention it.
But the biggest thing is they didn't have like 2 shots for most conversations. So for example, we have Victoria that's talking on the phone to her friend, and they just have a wide shot 100% of the time for about 4.5 minutes. Unacceptable. Get a tighter shot. Shoot in a higher resolution so that you can crop in. There was just no difference in camera shots when there's anything happening on the screen, and it's so frustrating because they just leave scenes on forever, and if they wanted to change the angle of a shot, they just fucking pick up the camera and walk it around the room. It's like, oh, we need that in frame? Okay. We've been sitting here for a while. We're just gonna like move it now.
Gotta get those letters.
Yeah, like it was horrible, noticeable camera work.
But it can be fixed in post because you can edit that. If you have 2 different shots in any kind of film, it's just like, okay, chop here, skip the movement where it gets to the next shot, and cut there. And everything looks like you just jumped to that section, and it looks good. That's editing. Unfortunately, they just like opted not to edit properly and just move the camera a bit so we can get some more of that wall in here, that would be tops.
Yeah, it was really noticeable. Like, one of the very first scenes when he's talking to the guy that worked at the toy store, Nick was taller than him. So they try and get them both in frame, but Nick's head's cut off, so they move it up, and then he exits the scene, and then they, like, pull back down. Like, it's just stupid. Just horrible. 90 minutes of this shit.
Great poster, terrible everything else. Honestly, not worth watching. It's better to hear us talk about it for 10 minutes than to put yourself through this, because I legit thought it was going to be good. Or at least something campy enough that we could just like have fun with.
But they took it way too serious. That's the issue here, is they tried to make something serious and they tried to make it a elf that's just running around killing people because of some curse.
I mean, we've seen small little dudes run around and kill people.
Yeah.
I'd rather watch Gnome Alone again.
Any emotion that was acted from these people were just horrible. Like, any killing was just like POV shots of this guy on the ground. Like, he's a foot is generous. He was not a foot long.
He was like 8 inches, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. He was like the size of this cup.
Yeah, he's not threatening.
Hey, he doesn't even look menacing. He just looks like a little doll. What's worse, too, is like, yeah, we're spoiling the shit out of this movie. You could basically just crush his head and he's dead.
I also was really annoyed with the elf's dialogue, or whatever he was speaking. It was just gibberish.
I think it's Elvish.
It was probably Elvish, but it was just gibberish, and it was annoying, because it was very, like, higher pitched than everything else. Like, not, like, high pitched like an elf voice. Like, I mean, like, the volume was just up too much for it.
In general, the entire goddamn movie should have had a compressor on it. I don't know who did the audio editing in this movie, but it was garbage. This is the movie where you have to go from 47 volume down to 7 volume. So you need to crank it up so that you can hear these people kind of whisper their words that are incoherent anyway, not because of the volume. And then you have to tone it down because anytime the elf talks, it's a headphone warning. You constantly have to rock on the controller the entire movie, and it's so frustrating.
It's time for our final thoughts and ratings. It's no surprise at this point that we just don't like this movie. It's a horrible movie. If they were doing this in your high school class, John, they'd fail. Like, there's nothing... Like, I don't understand how this was made. It was just, it lacked plot, story, good dialogue, effects, camera work. There's nothing redeeming about it, and we always try to find something redeeming about it. Even the fact that you put effort towards making a movie. But this time I cannot give you that credit for making a movie because I just wasted 90 minutes of my life watching this crap.
And the additional to talk about it.
Yeah, like I don't even feel like this is a movie worth us reviewing is how much I hated it. But I'm going to give it 0.5 skeleton Santa Clauses out of 5.
Very well put, Travis. I completely agree. This movie is garbage. And it sucks saying that because we pride ourselves on trying to find like the good of bad movies. You know, like we watch a lot of bad movies and generally we can understand what they were going for. And this one, not so much. From the writing, the direction, the lighting, everything was in the day, by the way. Forgot about that. The editing was awful. The camera work was weird. And the inconsistency with the elf, the primary reason why this movie even exists in the first place, is just awful. I hated it. So I have to give this 0.5 Oscar nominations out of 5.
What the hell is this?
What is this?
I just said that.
What is this doing in our car?
Trying to find a good point for this film was like pulling teeth. I really wanted to at least like something from this, but everything just was wrong with it. I couldn't get into the story because I didn't know what was going on. The dialogue was very, very weak. And a film that revolves around an elf trying to kill people, at least give us an elf trying to kill people. I just wish a film like this, even though it's bad, should at least have some fun to it, and there was no fun. And that's the disappointing factor, is the fact that the three of us could sit there, watch it together, and not even make like one joke. That is the depressing point, because I can't even say, go watch this with your friends, because at least you'll have a fun time. Because you won't have a fun time. Don't watch it with your friends, go do something else. So with that being said, I gotta give this film 0.5 O-faced carolers out of 5.
As always, thank you for watching. Like this video and comment below with your thoughts on the film if you've seen it. And I'm so sorry if you have. If you do want to watch it, there are links in the description. But if this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe to the channel to stay updated with everything Bloodbath and beyond.